On the night of May 6, 2024, our girl stands on a rooftop, preparing for her 30-second ability test. Looking down at the city lights, no one would suspect this high schooler is planning something incredible. Without hesitation, she leaps from the edge. As she falls, streaks of orange energy erupt around her. This isn't a leap of despair, but the moment her true power finally awakens. In an instant, our girl finds herself 50 kilometers away in the ocean. Despite coughing from the cold water, she checks her phone GPS and confirms she's truly mastered the art of teleportation. Back home, she appears in the doorway soaking wet, giving her mother a real fright. Faced with her mom's worry, our girl quickly grabs a towel, trying to hide the traces of her daring midnight adventure. But the peace at the dinner table is just a facade. Seeing her father's memorial, the fire of revenge burns again. Knowing his attackers are still free, the warmth in her eyes vanishes instantly. To get her revenge, she needs to know her limits. Back on the rooftop, she discovers a 2-second cooldown and a 24 jump limit. She'll have to be precise if she wants to survive. This time, she attempts a risky wall phasing test. It works, but the agonizing pain makes her break out in a cold sweat. It seems using this forbidden power comes with a heavy price. With an incredible teleportation ability, our girl's first move is to test her carrying capacity. Facing a mountain of 5 billion won, she realizes she now holds the power to change her destiny, though her calm expression is almost chilling. Back in reality, she still has to play the part of an ordinary student. But the world isn't kind. A luxury car nearly plows through the crowd, serving as a reminder that social status often commands more presence than any superpower. Our girl tries her best to stay under the radar in class. In a school dictated by social hierarchy, being invisible is her best defense. While she calculates how to use her powers, she's forced to act like a total nobody. But the urge for freedom becomes unbearable. She slips away to a secluded storage room in the school. In this quiet corner, her glowing eyes reveal that she's about to attempt something incredibly bold and dangerous. To master her gift, she resorts to extreme training, free falling from the sky. Dancing between life and death, she finds a sense of liberation. For a moment, the dull world actually looks magnificent through her eyes. But reality strikes back. Just as she tries to catch her breath, the bullies track her down. Led by Li Lua, they treat our girl like a toy, crossing the line with physical and mental humiliation to crush her spirit. This degradation is beyond sickening. Li Lua forcibly smears lipstick on our girl's face into a twisted mask. The contrast between that wicked smile and our girl's tears creates a suffocating sense of violence and despair. Instead of stopping it, the cronies cheer and record the abuse on their phones. To them, it's just a fun game. They even joke about sharing these photos later, showing how truly rotten these classmates are. The abuse peaks as Lua blasts her with a cold water hose. But the freezing water only douses her final bit of patience. At this breaking point, her eyes glow orange red. The executioner is finally waking up. The campus bullying continued as Lua mercilessly sprayed our girl, taunting her relentlessly. Our girl could only tightly hug her head, desperately enduring the humiliation. Next, Lua cornered our girl for more severe torment. Our girl was forced to bend and arch her back, trying to evade, while accomplices filmed with their phones, coldly recording everything and even joining in the mockery. In an instant, our girl seizes the moment, using her teleportation to launch Lua high into the air. Before we know it, the once arrogant bully is plummeting toward the ocean from a terrifying height. Our girl teleports back alone, collapsing among the scattered cash to act exhausted. The bullies are completely bewildered. How could Lua vanish into thin air right before their eyes? The contrast here is chilling. While our girl gasps for air on the ground, maintaining her act, Lua is fighting for her life in the freezing ocean, screaming for a savior who isn't coming. Lua reaches desperately for the light above, but the ocean's weight is merciless. The once untouchable bully is now sinking into the dark abyss, finally tasting the terror she inflicted on others. A flashback reveals our girl's dark past. Covered in blood as a child, she stands over her family's dog. After the dog killed her pet rabbit, she took a knife and delivered her own brand of justice. To her, justice has always been an eye for an eye. This cold, innate instinct is why she didn't hesitate with Lua. It wasn't just revenge. In her mind, it was a necessary punishment. Back in the present, Lua's consciousness is fading beneath the waves. As air bubbles escape her lips, her body sinks helplessly into the deep, marking a truly haunting end for the bully. Huddled on the ground, our girl's eyes glow a haunting red from the strain. Despite completing her revenge, a flicker of doubt crosses her mind. Did she really just cross the ultimate line? Panic erupts as the gang leader, Jihan, demands to know where Lua went. Amidst the chaos, Nobody suspects that their powerful leader has been exiled to the middle of the ocean. Our girl fixes her cracked glasses and wipes the blood away. Though a wounded Chanhee saw everything, he remained silent, leaving behind a secret that could blow the whole situation wide open. With Lua missing, the bullies vent their rage on poor Chanhee. As he lies there beaten and bloodied, our girl Minna watches in a state of absolute panic and internal conflict. Seeing Ki-han's brutality escalate, Minna knows Chanhee won't survive much longer. In this desperate moment, her suppressed murderous intent begins to surface. She has to save him. Minna's eyes flare with a dangerous orange glow. She contemplates using her powers to teleport these trash into the deep sea, ending this nightmare once and for all. Just as Minna reaches her breaking point, the homeroom teacher intervenes. But instead of backing down, Ki-han responds to the teacher's arrival with a chilling, mocking smirk. The teacher tries to assert his authority, pointing out Chanhee's injuries. However, Ki-han turns the tables by whispering about a 50 million won debt, freezing the air instantly. It turns out the teacher lost everything in crypto and is now indebted to his own student. His authority crumbles instantly, leaving him trembling and humiliated in front of everyone. In front of the entire class, Ki-han treats the teacher like a servant. He uses the debt as leverage, demanding that any news regarding Lua be reported to him first. The school has become a lawless playground for Ki-han. Witnessing this twisted reality, Minna's resolve hardens. The true execution is only just beginning. Under the shadow of school bullying, the sudden disappearance of heiress Li Lua puts gang leader Kong Ji-han in a tight spot. He calms his terrified henchmen while coldly instructing them to unify their story and deflect blame for Lua's disappearance. He warns everyone to find Lua and report to him, or face his wrath. Han Yura, a bullied subordinate, sweats in fear, while our protagonist Minna is caught in Kong Ji-han's gaze, unwillingly drawn into this conspiracy. Kong Ji-han and his crew leave, leaving Minna alone, sweat beading on her forehead from the immense pressure. She knows blaming her friend Chanhee for Lua's disappearance would be a fatal mistake. Minna's thoughts flash back to the night Lua fell into the sea. Her pupils constrict, a struggle on her face. As Lua thrashes in the water, Minna watches, a question echoing in her mind. Is she truly dead? Kneeling, Minna props herself up, scattered money reflecting her turmoil. Her father's words echo in her mind. Dad, what do I do? I killed someone. Immense guilt and regret engulf her. Worse, Minna suddenly realizes that someone else might have witnessed Lua's fall besides herself. She looks up, her eyes wide with terror, knowing her secret could now be exposed at any moment. Meanwhile, a bespectacled witness is pinned against a wall, struggling with trembling hands, desperately screaming, "Why are you doing this?" The fear in their eyes is palpable. Deep in a dark alley, a cold-blooded killer stands by two fallen bodies. One is the witness who just questioned him, now lying in a pool of blood, pleading, "You promised to pay me. I'll give you more." The killer stares at her expressionlessly, blood dripping from his axe. He replies in a low voice, "The money has already been paid. To kill you." Moments later, the axe falls, ending the witness's life. The bloody execution is over. The killer stands expressionless, ensuring the job is done. He then pulls out his phone, making a call as if the recent murder was just another day at the office. The scene shifts to Li Lua, drifting helplessly deep underwater like a broken doll. Her eyes are wide but vacant, and despite the ripples around her, she remains completely unresponsive. In a dim alley, a scruffy man hangs up his phone while staring at the bloody scene before him. He sighs about his failure as a father, as shadows of a deeper crisis begin to loom. 2 days after Lua's disappearance, school life seems eerily normal. Watching her classmates gossip as if nothing happened, our girl senses a disturbing calm before the next inevitable storm. Meanwhile, the bully gang is spiraling into panic. Staring at his unanswered messages, Gunwoo breaks into a cold sweat, knowing full well that failing to find Lua means their lives are forfeit. Gahan confronts Gunwoo, leading to a heated clash. Under the crushing pressure of family threats and growing fear, Gunwoo reaches his breaking point, his face a mask of tears and sweat. Gunwoo tries to walk away, but Han Yura blocks his path. Usually an ally in their schemes, she now sports a sinister grin, clearly holding a trump card that could ruin him instantly. Yura reveals photos of Gunwoo spiking drinks at a club. Facing this blatant blackmail, the once arrogant bully is silenced, his eyes flickering with a mixture of intense rage and helplessness. Pressed by Yura's demands, Gunwoo has no choice but to submit. Their friendship has devolved into a pit of mutual exploitation, forcing him to grit his teeth and keep playing this dangerous game. While school remains calm on the surface, Chanhee is nowhere to be found. A sudden flash reveals a terrified boy with his mouth taped shut. It seems a new wave of chaos has already begun. Back in class, our girl Minna is feeling the heat, sensing eyes on her. She's spiraling, terrified that if the Ilhe group links her to Li Lua's disappearance, she's as good as dead. Just as Minna is drowning in cold sweat, Chani pops up out of nowhere to ask if she wants to hit the internet cafe. It's a harmless question, but it nearly gives her a heart attack. Elsewhere, our guy Lee Soo-hyun is cruising through the city with his partner. They picked up on something fishy. Social media queen Li Lua hasn't posted in 2 days, and her phone is dead. Staring at the screen, Soo-hyun's gut tells him things are going south. His professional intuition clicks as he realizes they're being tailed, but he's not about to let some amateurs get the drop on him. No more games. Soo-hyun pulls over and steps out to confront the tail. Before they even know what hit them, he's already on them, landing a heavy blow that catches the leader completely off guard. Chaos erupts, but the pursuers are no match for these two. As Soo-hyun's partner draws her weapon to lock down the area, the thugs realize they've picked a fight with the wrong people. With a boot on the guy's neck, Soo-hyun starts the interrogation. The terrified thug quickly spills the beans. They were sent by the president herself just to bring him in for a little chat. Knowing he's finally in the big boss's crosshairs, Soo-hyun's expression hardens. The game just got a lot more dangerous, and the whirlpool of power is starting to pull everyone under. Under the cover of night, the city is far from peaceful. While the news of Li Lua's disappearance is being suppressed by the elites, various factions are already scouring the shadows for her. The scene shifts to a PC cafe, where an injured Chonhee is being pressured by bullies to find Lua. Seeing his bandaged face and terrified eyes, our girl Minna feels a surge of guilt. Minna realizes that her quest for revenge has dragged Chonhee into a dangerous vortex. Despite the feeling of being watched, she tries to comfort him, even as her own mind teeters on the edge. At that moment, Minna's eyes flash with a sinister red glow. As memories of Lua falling into the sea haunt her, she begins to question herself. Am I really not a murderer? Chonhee trembles as he begs her to stop the killing. Minna agrees, but insists that he stay by her side from now on, believing that she is the only one who can truly protect him. However, Chonhee refuses to be a burden. He chooses to leave, deciding to face the mess on his own. Watching him walk away, the red light in Minna's eyes deepens with unease. As the tension builds, every screen in the cafe suddenly switches to a breaking news report. The entire room falls silent in shock as the situation spirals out of control. The streets transform into a living nightmare as screams fill the air. A terrifying force is now tearing through the city, and the game of judgment and revenge has just entered its bloodiest chapter. The scene shifts to a grim confrontation where chaos has erupted. With a friend bleeding on the ground, the survivor is paralyzed by terror as a knife-wielding thug closes in, leaving no room for escape. Back in the present, our girl Minna stands calm against a mocking blonde bully. He's laughing in her face and throwing insults, completely unaware that he's already stepped into a deadly trap. The bully tries to get physical, but in a flash, the world drops away. They're suddenly plummeting from the sky, and his arrogance turns into pure terror as he screams during the violent freefall. In the blink of an eye, Minna teleports to a ledge, leaving the bully dangling for his life. He clings desperately to her ankle, now nothing more than a pathetic wretch begging for mercy. Minna isn't finished yet. She teleports them both to an abandoned construction site. Amidst the decaying concrete, the bully's bravado completely vanishes, replaced by a deep, primal fear. Our girl offers him one final chance to repent for his sins. But even as he writhes in pain, he chooses to hurl insults instead of apologies, and that cold look in Minna's eyes says his time is up. Faced with such unrepentant scum, mercy is off the table. As the screams echo through the ruins, this judge's trial has only just begun, and her revenge won't be stopping anytime soon. Facing a remorseless thug, our girl Minna shows no mercy. She gazes down coldly at the bloodied man, unmoved by his desperate threats or the mention of his powerful connections. Since words are useless, Minna lets her actions do the talking. She drags the trash into the air before slamming him down, teaching him the true meaning of terror through overwhelming force. As the bully begins to beg for his life, Minna remains terrifyingly calm. She doesn't want an apology for herself. She demands retribution for what he did to Chonhee. Clearly, empty pleas won't quench Minna's rage. Seeing that the bully is still trying to manipulate his way out, she realizes that some people are simply beyond saving. Meanwhile, the other gang members are still plotting over their phones, blissfully unaware that the shadow of death has already quietly gathered over their heads. Before they can react, Minna drops in from the sky with their broken comrade. The massive impact shatters the rooftops piece and strikes pure terror into the bullies' hearts. Amidst the chaos, Gunwoo stares in horror at his brutalized companion. The violent game they once controlled has now completely turned against them. Amidst the blood and chaos, Manhwa stands with eerie composure. She takes one last look at the scene before vanishing in a blinding flash of light, leaving them in shock. As Manhwa wreaks havoc, Lee Soo-hyun and his partner Won-hari zero in on their targets. Using their intel, they prepare to move in before things spiral further out of control. As the sun sets, our boy Lee Soo-hyun, Won-hari, and their cleaner squad traverse the city streets. Hari's sharp gaze reveals her inner focus on their target, the revenant who seeks vengeance for his daughter. Suddenly, the sight before them halted Lee Soo-hyun and Won-hari. The square ahead was ablaze with flashing police lights, an ambulance already present, indicating a major incident had just occurred. Seeing the commotion, Lee Soo-hyun approached a passing student, asking directly, "Hey, student, did something happen at school? Was there an accident?" Facing Lee Soo-hyun's inquiry, the bespectacled student, none other than our Manhwa, calmly delivered a chilling truth. Someone fell and died. After Manhwa calmly walked away, Lee Soo-hyun stared thoughtfully at her retreating figure. Won-hari, noticing his unusual silence, asked in confusion, "What's wrong?" Lee Soo-hyun replied dismissively, but couldn't help comparing Manhwa to Lua, his thoughts tangled. Soon after, Lee Soo-hyun and Won-hari arrived at the principal's office. Hari immediately identified herself as from Ilhe Group's secretariat, sent by thee to investigate. Lee Soo-hyun remained observant, taking everything in. They soon met on Jong-ho, Lua's homeroom teacher. Lee Soo-hyun coolly assessed him, while Hari aggressively questioned, directly bringing up the student's death at school today. This immediately turned on Jong-ho pale, beads of sweat forming on his face. To press further, Won-hari laid out photos of Kang Ga-han, Han Yura, and Hwang Gunwoo, demanding to know if the death was connected to them. Under immense pressure, An Jong-ho trembled as he revealed a shocking truth. Hwang Gunwoo had been found dead on the rooftop today. At this, Lee Soo-hyun's expression sharpened. A subtle, knowing smile played on his lips as he directly addressed An Jong-ho, demanding every single detail about Lua's school life, without omission. Meanwhile, in a dilapidated warehouse, Han Yura frantically dialed Kang Ga-han, but with no answer, she grew increasingly terrified and agitated, muttering about the pressure of facing this situation alone. Just as Han Yura's nerves frayed, a loud clang echoed from deeper within the warehouse, making her shriek. She then spotted Kang Ga-han, disheveled and cowering by the doorway, his face twisted in terror, clearly having endured some horrific attack. Yura rushed forward, anxiously asking Ga-han about Gunwoo. She received a chilling answer. Gunwoo is dead. Ga-han, blood still on his neck, fearfully described how Gunwoo had fallen from the sky. This bizarre death plunged both into utter despair and terror. Inside the warehouse, Kang Ji-han desperately clutches his blood-stained face, knowing that with all his money gone and Hwang Gunwoo dead, Hwang Gun-sung would never let him go. Confronting the anxious Han Yura, Ji-han furiously raises his hand, threatening her to tell the others or face death. He then lets out a pained scream, his body convulsing as if under extreme torture. In a dim bathroom, Yoon Chan-hee leans on the sink, his face covered in scars and sweat, his body trembling. Outside, his grandma's anxious voice asks if he's home, mentioning a student's death at his school, further unsettling the already tense Chan-hee. Meanwhile, as night falls, the city glows orange-red under the sunset. A black-haired, glasses-wearing figure gazes keenly over the city, as if deep in thought. The next day, a luxury car speeds towards the school. Inside, Ilhe Group chairwoman Lee Ji-hyun calmly decides to postpone a business lunch, stating she's personally escorting her dear granddaughter to school. Sitting in the back, Lee Lua thoughtfully looks ahead. As the car speeds past the school entrance, startling students, Lua suddenly cries out. Her grandmother, Lee Ji-hyun, remains perfectly calm, seemingly unfazed by the commotion. Grandma Ji-hyun looks at Lua, asking with a hint of disdain. Playing with addicts and loose change, you call that business? Lua smiles back, recalling how people would follow her like puppies, finding it quite amusing. Grandma Ji-hyun takes the opportunity to lecture Lua, explaining that some things in this world cannot be swayed by money or profit, but by a madness that surpasses all. She even recalls the night Lua's mother left her, saying she sometimes sees the same look in Lua's eyes swayed by neither love nor logic, leaving only pure insanity. Hearing her grandmother's words, Lua embraces Ji-hyun from behind, earnestly assuring her that she's different from her mother and will never betray her. Grandma Ji-hyun merely coughs lightly, her expression unreadable. Lost in thought, Grandma Ji-hyun is roused from her memories, by her driver's repeated calls, blinking her eyes open. The car then pulls into a dim underground parking lot, where a scarred man and several suited men await. Inside, the brown-haired man in the passenger seat questions Ji-hyun, asking if she knew about Louis' school activities, which far exceeded those of a normal student. Yet, facing the interrogation, Grandma Ji-hyun remains calm, a slight upward curve to her lips, and quietly responds. She wasn't broken. She had everything perfectly under control. Inside a moving luxury car, a dark-haired woman lies calmly with her eyes closed, while a distressed man across from her raises his voice, clenching his fist. Confronted by the man's angry words, another dark-haired man, likely her father or kin, retorts with equal intensity, even covering her face and shouting, "She is my grandchild!" as tensions escalate. Finally, the distressed man seems persuaded by a promise, burying his face in his hands before being allowed to leave. Meanwhile, elsewhere, a young man is saying goodbye to his worried grandmother. On the street, the young man, still masked, encounters a long-haired classmate. When the classmate shows him a mirror, he's suddenly flooded with terrifying flashbacks of a gruesome dead body. The overwhelming shock makes him double over, coughing and gagging. His classmate Chan rushes to his side, offering a tissue and checking on him. Weakly, the man admits that he remembers. After recovering, he enters a cluttered, narrow alley between buildings with a short-haired companion. He confesses that he didn't intend to kill, but gave the person a chance, who ultimately chose to end their own life. In his memory, a blond man plummets bloody from a great height. Back in the present alley, the young man adds coldly, explaining that the person simply got what they deserved in the end. His thoughts turn to his own father, a fallen police officer, and he clenches his fist, wondering if tragedy could have been avoided if evildoers were punished from the start. Meanwhile, high in a skyscraper, another man asks the same, how many people out there harbor hatred for his daughter? By the window, the black-haired man, Lee Soo-hyun, eyes sharp and brow furrowed, seethed with rage. He accused the terrified youth before him, declaring that amongst their vile group was his daughter's killer. No matter how many, he swore he would find and eliminate every single one, his voice laced with unyielding resolve. Back at school, students whispered amongst themselves. The unsettling bloodstain on the rooftop was clearly Hwang Gun-woo's fault. With Lee Lua and Yuri also gone, an unsettling murmur spread through the campus. Some students even gloated over the bullies' demise, finding the school more peaceful. Meanwhile, a bespectacled male student scrolled through his phone, watching a live broadcast of a child abuser being cornered by an enraged public, sparking outrage. The student, watching the broadcast and thinking of Minna, suddenly realized something. His expression changed dramatically as he yelled, "Wait! Minna!" He seemed to anticipate our Minna's impending action and tried to stop her. But Minna, now with her jacket hood up, was already confronting the cross-scarred Kang Ji-hyun. Her sharp gaze accused him of not being the only one to profit from the recent events. Under Minna's chilling stare, Kang Ji-hyun broke out in a cold sweat, utterly terrified. Minna relentlessly pressed him, her words full of intimidation. Terrified, Kang Ji-hyun clutched his head, ultimately collapsing to his knees in front of the girls' restroom, seemingly branded a pervert by force, drawing stares from other students. The student who tried to stop Minna watched her calm, faintly smiling expression with alarm. Kang Ji-hyun, meanwhile, was utterly pale with terror. Minna seemed to be making him pay for his past sins in this manner. As students watched the scene unfold in shock, the child abuser from the live broadcast was also targeted by Minna, screaming in terror amidst the crowd. Yet, our Minna calmly wore her glasses, a subtle smile playing on her lips, as if everything was perfectly under control. Meanwhile, elsewhere, forensic experts were performing an autopsy on Hwang Gun-woo. The 17-year-old's direct cause of death was nerve damage from a fracture. The investigation into this incident had only just begun. In the morgue, our guide gazes down at the cold corpse, lost in thought. Despite the case involving a powerful heiress, he remains professional, searching for any link to the mysterious exterminator. As they step into the hallway, Won-hari presses him for more details. Their hushed conversation is interrupted by the arrival of Captain Cho, adding another layer of tension to the air. Gang leader Hwang Gun-sung finally arrives, and the sight of his brother's mangled remains shatters his composure. Staring at the stitched-up corpse, his grief quickly turns into blinding rage. Overcome by grief, Gun-sung grabs our boy's collar, screaming and venting his agony on everyone present. But our guy remains unfazed, his sharp gaze cutting right through the gangster's desperate threats. Facing the hysterical shouting, our boy calmly tells the man to focus on his brother's burial first. His eerie composure makes Gun-sung's desperate cries feel even more hollow and tragic. On their way out, Won-hari notices something chilling. The brother didn't even ask how his sibling died. Meanwhile, Minna's crimson eyes flash again, signaling that her vengeance is far from over. Back at school, the former bullies are living in fear. A chilling question hangs in the air. Do these scumbags truly deserve to live in peace? The scales of justice are beginning to tip. The scene shifts to our boy Chan-hee, seemingly trapped in a nightmare. He struggles, questioning how one can be okay after killing, as if witnessing a horrific crime himself, even fearing he might become a villain. The scene shifts to Detective Lee Soo-hyun, sternly on the phone, his gaze inscrutable behind sunglasses. His companion beside him looks tense, seemingly discussing a crucial lead. Soon, they arrive at an operating room. Upon seeing the gruesome blonde corpse on the table, Lee Soo-hyun's brow furrows, sweat beading on his forehead, as if a disturbing truth has surfaced, unsettling even him. Facing his terrified companion, Lee Soo-hyun seizes his collar, a warning in his eyes. Clearly, he's threatening him to keep a secret, no matter the cost. Meanwhile, elsewhere, a gang leader strides down a dim corridor with his subordinates, harshly urging them on, seemingly rushing to deal with an urgent matter. Back with Lee Soo-hyun and his companion, they review Hwang Gun-sung's profile on a tablet. He's not only the CEO of Gold Credit Finance, but also holds multiple positions, indicating a complex background. Inside the car, Lee Soo-hyun and his partner, Won Hari, observe their target through binoculars, puzzled as to why a gangster like Hwang Gun-sung would be involved in such a major predicament. There's clearly a deeper reason. It turns out, everything revolved around Lee Lua. As a key figure, she skillfully leveraged Ilhay Group's backing to draw massive investments into Hwang Gun-sung's cryptocurrency business, rapidly expanding its scale. Lee Soo-hyun and Won Hari continue their analysis. While Lee Lua put Hwang Gun-sung in a bind, oddly, she didn't seem to profit from it, making the entire incident even more enigmatic. Just then, Lee Soo-hyun spots a crucial lead through his binoculars. He sees the target, a group of people gathered in front of Building 107, with a yellow SUV parked nearby, seemingly waiting. Meanwhile, Minna is confronting bully Kang Ji-han outside school. She teleports him to an abandoned, dilapidated building, one of her designated safe houses for her prey. Kang Ji-han, his mouth taped shut by Minna, is terrified. He frantically looks around the dilapidated building, discovering walls covered with strange photos, a chilling sight that fills him with dread. Minna watches Kang Ji-han's fear with a cold gaze. This scene also reminds her of standing by the sea, holding her phone, seemingly pondering a secret, her eyes distant. Kang Ji-han, pointing at the photos, cries out in terror, begging Minna not to leave him alone. However, Minna simply stands with her back to him, as if oblivious to his pleas. Driven by a will to survive, Kang Ji-han desperately searches for an exit. He shoves the door open, only to fall from a height. After a violent impact, he's left with injuries and a bandaged face, trembling on the ground. Just as Kang Ji-han succumbs to extreme fear, he suddenly produces an open donut box, offering it to Minna like a treasure, excitedly exclaiming it's the most popular donut of the moment. As the sun sets, Minna and Chan-hee sit by the river, sharing a quiet moment. Yet, Minna's internal struggle lingers. She quietly asks Chan-hee if, after everything, she still seems like a monster to him. Chan-hee, surprised and puzzled, asks Minna why she can't just enjoy simple moments without using her powers. Minna, deep in thought, admits she doesn't understand the origin of her abilities, feeling as though she's fulfilling a duty. Minna firmly tells Chan-hee that her actions are part of finding the reason for her powers, asserting it's her duty. Hearing this, Chan-hee's face fills with worry and disapproval. It turns out Kang Ji-han, one of the bullies used by our Minna, is furious and terrified after her previous executions, blaming her for almost getting him killed. But Minna just smirks, threatening to deal with him just like she did with Lua. Just then, a mysterious figure suddenly intervenes, taking down Kang Ji-han with an electric device. Our Minna is stunned by the sudden turn of events, seemingly recognizing the technique. She instinctively calls out Chan-hee, hinting that the newcomer might be connected to her friend's injury. Soon, our Minna and Kang Ji-han are taken to a secret location. The sunglasses-wearing boss arrives, and his subordinates confirm the people have been brought. Tied to a chair and disoriented, Minna is suffering from a splitting headache, completely unaware of her surroundings, clearly in a precarious situation. Masked and bound, our Minna can only worry about her friend Chan-hee. Meanwhile, Kang Ji-han faces brutal interrogation from the gang leader. Terrified, he's confronted with the boss's stern question, "Ji-han, what exactly happened?" Inside the dim room, the gang leader Hwang Gun-sung has completely lost his mind. He roars in fury, raining heavy blows on the captive while cursing them for his brother's death. Minna sits bound to a chair, forced to witness the brutality firsthand. The cracked floor and splattered blood tell a grim story, but in her silence, something dangerous is beginning to brew. The air turns cold as the interrogation intensifies. Hwang grabs Minna by the hair, forcing her to look up as he demands answers, unaware of the lethal glint forming in her eyes. As Hwang continues his taunts, something snaps inside Minna. Memories of the rooftop tragedy flash through her mind, and her eyes ignite with an orange-red glowy warning of the power about to erupt. Suddenly, a massive shockwave erupts with a shower of sparks. Before Hwang can react, the sheer force of the blast sends him flying backward, crashing helplessly into the debris. The gang members are left speechless, rushing to their fallen boss in a panic. Though Minna repelled them, the toll of her power is heavy, and a single tear falls down her bruised cheek. As chaos consumes the building, the cleaner Lee Soo-hyun finally arrives. The scarred investigator isn't here to talk. Alongside his partner Hari, he begins carving a path through the gang with his fists. Lee Soo-hyun dominates the scene, grabbing thugs by their throats to demand the boss's location. Beside him, Hari smiles with eerie cheerfulness, a contrast that sends chills down everyone's spine. A flying knife streaks through the air. The thugs, thinking they had the upper hand, grin mockingly. But the blade unexpectedly swerves, striking one of their own in the forehead, turning the scene instantly bloody. It turns out our blonde, Hari, subtly guided the strike. Just as she flashed a victorious smile, a bald strongman lunged, pinning her down with a knife, instantly reversing the situation. With a knife at her throat, Hari's pupils flared a dangerous red. She instantly countered, holding the blade to a thug's mouth with a chilling smile, ready to begin her interrogation. Soon, the rooftop became a bloody hell. Thugs hung upside down or writhed on the ground in agony, covered in blood. Hari calmly held the knife to her captive, seemingly absorbed in the brutal interrogation. Amidst the carnage, the scarred Lee Soo-hyun arrived, seemingly wanting to stop Hari. But he was distracted by an anomaly above. More thugs were falling from the sky like rag dolls. No one knew what truly happened, but then, a mysterious blue-haired figure emerged, her pupils glowing with a dangerous red light, signaling an even fiercer storm was brewing. Indeed, our Minna made a powerful entrance with her teleportation ability. With her first move, the aggressive thugs were instantly sent flying, twisting in pain midair as their weapons were destroyed by an unseen force. However, each power burst brought intense side effects. Minna clutched her head, groaning in agony, unable to fathom why this time was so painful, as if her head might explode. Seeing Chan-hee unconscious and covered in blood, our girl completely panics, desperately calling his name. Realizing his life is hanging by a thread, she knows he needs a hospital immediately, but as a fugitive, she has no idea where it's safe to take him. However, the enraged gang leader, Gun-sung, has no intention of letting her rest. Our girl is knocked to the ground. Despite her desperate attempts to teleport, the severe trauma to her body causes her powers to lag, leaving her helpless as danger closes in again. Paralyzed by agonizing pain, our girl falls into utter despair. Gun-sung has completely lost his mind, swinging a baseball bat with nothing but revenge for his brother on his mind, while even his accomplices are terrified by the sheer brutality of the scene. As the fatal blow is about to land, our girl desperately prays for her power to awaken. But with a sickening crack sound, instead of a miracle, her situation only worsens, and the overwhelming feeling of powerlessness brings her to the brink of a breakdown. Gun-sung ruthlessly pins our girl down and deals another brutal blow to the already dying Chan-hee right before her eyes. Witnessing her friend's further brutalization, she lets out a haunting scream, enduring a level of mental and physical agony that is almost unbearable. Extreme pain ignites the last of our girl's willpower as her eyes bleed a deep crimson, tears mixing with blood. But Gun-sung is like a demon without mercy, relentlessly swinging his metal pipe, determined to end everything right here in this abandoned factory. After the frantic beating, silence finally falls over the factory. Everyone is drenched in blood, with Chan-hee and Minna lying in a pool of it. Gun-sung coldly stares at our girl, noticing she's still clinging to life, and the murderous intent in his eyes flares up once more. Just a moment ago, our Minna was brutally tortured by an unknown man, covered in blood and agony, while he twisted his smile, muttering threats as if to melt her alive. Then, another figure in black, like a phantom, descended upside down, striking Minna viciously. She was flung violently against the wall, blood splattering anew. Just as Minna's life hung by a thread, a scarred, dark-haired man suddenly appeared. He quickly leaned over, asking with concern if she was alright, seemingly her unexpected savior. The scene shifts to Kang Ji-han in his school uniform, locked in a fierce struggle with gang leader Hwang Gun-sung. Hwang Gunsong, one of the enemies from Minna's past, brutally beats Kong Jihan, sending him crashing to the ground in agony. Just then, the mysterious man Lee Soo-hyun, who had previously aided Minna, arrived. He too asked the fallen Kong Jihan about his injuries, then thoughtfully brought up the girl. Lee Soo-hyun's words put Hwang Gunsong on alert. He looked at Kong Jihan with suspicion, as if asking what she was doing there, a conversation loaded with meaning. What followed was even more shocking. Lee Lua, whom everyone believed dead, was found oddly preserved in a sealed container, her chest and abdomen marked with stitches. The sight instantly filled all onlookers with terror. Witnessing the bizarre scene, Lee Soo-hyun erupted in fury. Without hesitation, he launched a fierce assault on Hwang Gunsong, sending him flying and radiating a dangerous killing intent. Hwang Gunsong struggled to his feet, yelling furiously at Lee Soo-hyun, unable to believe he survived the previous attack, his words full of shock and rage. To Hwang Gunsong's challenge, Lee Soo-hyun gave a cold smile, admitting his opponent was tougher than expected. This only fueled his destructive urges, hinting at a far more brutal fight to come. Lee Soo-hyun's gaze grew fiercer as he looked down at the fallen Hwang Gunsong and Kong Jihan. Hwang Gunsong struggled desperately, attempting to resist the sudden suppression. Enraged, Hwang Gunsong completely lost himself in madness. Yelling his brother's name and cursing Lee Soo-hyun, he recklessly charged, determined to overpower him with brute force. Hwang Gunsong's punch landed heavily on Lee Soo-hyun, forcing him backward. Yet, Lee Soo-hyun showed no retreat, instead mocking Hwang Gunsong's despicable act of feigning conversation to ambush him. Despite taking a heavy punch, Lee Soo-hyun calmly remarked that Hwang Gunsong's punch was decent enough. Then, his tone shifted sharply, as he sternly condemned Hwang for using such strength to harm a girl, his eyes filled with disdain and anger. Before the words fully left his mouth, the two engaged in another fierce struggle. Hwang Gunsong launched a barrage of punches, while Lee Soo-hyun dodged deftly, seeking an opening to counter. Dust kicked up from the wooden floor as the battle intensified. The scene opens with Soo-hyun brutally assaulting Hwang Gunsong, the gang leader. He lands a fierce punch to the head, showing no mercy, leaving Gunsong utterly defenseless. Despite taking a beating, Gunsong retaliated fiercely, his fist slamming into Soo-hyun's abdomen and chest. Yet, Soo-hyun merely cast a cold, disdainful glance at his fury. Soo-hyun then struck again, delivering a heavy blow to the back of Gunsong's head, knocking him to the ground. He looked down at the fallen man with a cold smirk, as if saying, "Don't die on me yet." Meanwhile, Soo-hyun's partner, Hari, collapsed exhausted, urgently calling out, "Sir!" desperate to understand what had transpired. Just then, Hari spotted our girl in Soo-hyun's arms through the doorway. Soo-hyun was on the phone, instructing his company on how to handle the aftermath, and told Hari to call the medical team. Our girl seemed to regain consciousness, weakly opening her eyes, trying to utter her name. Seeing her bruised and battered, Soo-hyun's gaze was complex, as if he were deep in thought. Our girl suddenly shuddered, her eyes wide, pointing at Soo-hyun and asking, "Please?" Her pupils contracted, tears welling, as she softly murmured, "Father!" seemingly recalling her deceased dad in that moment. Soo-hyun gazed at our emotional girl with a complex expression, but he still carried her into the car, deceptively telling her, "That's right. Daddy will save you." At this moment, our girl lay in a bed at Ilhe University Hospital, hooked up to various tubes, her vital signs weak. Her mother finally arrived at the hospital, bursting into tears upon seeing our girl awake. She gently told her, "Are you awake? It's Mom. The doctor said you took a hard hit to the head, so you must rest well." However, our girl looked bewildered, unable to recall what had happened earlier. Her mother held her tightly, choking back tears. "I was so scared of losing you." Our girl listened to her mother's words, her eyes filled with confusion and unease. Clutching the sheets, she murmured again, "But what happened to me? How did I get here?" Minal wakes from her coma, her first thought a frantic question about her friend Chan-hee. Hearing her mother confirm Chan-hee is still in the ICU, Minal's eyes fill with worry and pain. The scene shifts to a dark room where a school-uniformed man interrogates a muscular, hat-wearing man. Despite the captive's furious curses, the schoolboy's tone is icy, warning him to cooperate or face dire consequences. As the blonde woman makes her move, the previously defiant muscular man collapses, screaming in pain. She even coldly asks if this counts as chiropractic therapy, revealing her ruthless methods. The black-haired man looks down at the muscular man, who trembles on a chair with a knife in his back, courtesy of the blonde woman. The interrogation's atmosphere grows increasingly tense. The black-haired man suddenly asks if the muscular man killed Li Lua. The captive is utterly shocked, roaring his denial and claiming he had no idea Li Lua was dead. The muscular man's internal world collapses. Li Lua handled all his cryptocurrencies, and with her gone, he's ruined. Li Lua's image appears, as if mocking his despair. On the hospital bed, Yoon Chan-hee finally woke up after days of unconsciousness, causing the lady by his side to express immense gratitude to Detective Lee Soo-hyun for saving Min-ah. Despite the detective's reassurances, Chan-hee bore visible injuries, and another severely wounded girl, Han Yura, was clearly terrified by the unfolding events. Just then, a chaotic scene of someone falling flashed by, accompanied by a voice questioning, "No one died." "That can't be. Miss Min-ah." It seemed someone was either shocked by the outcome of Min-ah's actions, or recalling a pivotal falling incident, casting an unknown shadow over the story. Detective Lee Soo-hyun, his expression grim, knew that despite the children's recent ordeal, he still had many questions to answer. On the bed, Chan-hee had fallen back into a deep coma, covered in tubes, his life signs faint, causing immense grief to his family and friends present. Han Yura, also injured, finally broke down upon hearing the grim news that Chan-hee might never wake up. Tears in her eyes, she desperately blamed herself, as sinister, smiling figures, perhaps those who led her astray, flashed through her mind, a mix of regret and fear. Witnessing the comatose Chan-hee, his grandmother and relatives were heartbroken, tearfully asking Detective Lee Soo-hyun, "Has the culprit been caught? Why did this happen?" Even the emotionally exhausted Han Yura cried out helplessly, questioning fate's cruelty. Detective Lee Soo-hyun gently comforted the distraught Han Yura, but she couldn't stop her violent hyperventilation and trembling, eventually collapsing helplessly to the floor. Amidst her cries, an urgent call for Min-ah emerged, as if both accusing and pleading for help. Detective Lee Soo-hyun gazed at the silent Han Yura, asking if she felt better, but received no reassuring reply. He then announced his departure, leaving Han Yura on the hospital bed, her expression complex, her mind adrift in a sea of thoughts. Suddenly, Han Yura broke the silence, looking directly at Detective Lee Soo-hyun. "What happened to the one who harmed Chan-hee? Were they only arrested?" Lee Soo-hyun gravely informed her the culprit was dead, assuring her she had nothing to fear. This sudden news made Han Yura's heart race, as a violent image of the killer's demise seemed to flash through her mind, pulling her into deeper thought. Seeing our girl battered and bruised, Detective Cho comforts her, insisting she shouldn't feel guilty for the scum's death. But all Min-ah can think about is her friend Chan-hee, who broke down trying to take the blame for her. Playing the role of a fragile victim to perfection, our girl bows her head and timidly thanks the detective, totally wrapping the veteran cop around her finger. Meanwhile, just outside the hospital, Soo-hyun and Hari are dealing with a massive headache. With the gang boss suddenly dying during interrogation, their only solid lead has gone cold. Back in the ward, Min-ah stares at Chan-hee, who is deeply comatose. The brutal memory of the gang boss torturing her friend still horribly haunts her mind. Although the gang boss got what he deserved, the bullies who started all this are still breathing. Standing by the bed, she silently vows to wipe them all out without a single mistake. The scene cuts to the Ilhe Group headquarters. The imposing chairwoman furiously interrogates Soo-hyun, demanding to know how they expect a dead suspect to talk and provide any answers. Facing the chairwoman's harsh accusations, a fiercely loyal Hari completely loses it. She snaps back, explaining that Soo-hyun didn't kill anyone. The gang boss's chest suddenly exploded on its own. Before things get out of hand, Soo-hyun quickly cuts Hari off and takes the blame himself. Accepting his apology, the chairwoman issues a cold final warning: failure won't be tolerated again. Under immense pressure from the corporate higher-ups, Lee Soo-hyun remains grim. He knows this isn't just a simple investigation, but also concerns the fate of the children abducted by Hwang Gun-song. The conflict erupts as an agile man in a white shirt shows no mercy, sending his opponent in a suit crashing to the ground with a powerful punch, his cries of pain echoing through the hall. His comrades watch with tense expressions, the air thick with anticipation. After a fierce cleanup, the scarred man, Lee Soo-hyun, walks determinedly through the corridor, ignoring the horrified gazes of the medical staff. One Hari follows closely behind him. Clearly, the medical personnel here are deeply uneasy about their presence. Under the doctor's alarmed gazes, Lee Soo-hyun meticulously examines the comatose Lee Lua. Medical staff point out faint bruises on her body, especially on her back, noting their unusual color, seemingly distinct from normal livor mortis. This discovery darkens Lee Soo-hyun's expression. Yura sneaks back to the hideout with food, only to find Ji-han on the verge of a breakdown. Staring at the news, his mind is consumed by the horrific memories of Mina's brutal massacre. The image of Mina descending like a bloodthirsty demon with glowing red eyes has become his ultimate nightmare. Just remembering her calling his name is enough to freeze his blood. When Yura tries to hand him the food, his frayed nerves finally snap. He violently knocks the meal away and pins her to the messy floor, taking all his terrified rage out on her. Jihan screams that none of this would have happened if she hadn't introduced him to Li Lua. But Yura furiously fires back, reminding him of all the dirty money they made through that connection. After a vicious scuffle, the two of them collapse on the floor, utterly exhausted. Reality sets in. If they want to survive Mina's relentless hunt, they desperately need a powerful protector. Jihan's eyes light up with a sinister realization. There's a colossal entity out there that wants Mina even more than they do, the Ilhe group. Meanwhile, Ilhe's formidable chairwoman is already making her moves. Summoned to her office, the scar-faced detective faces the chairwoman's wrath over his rough handling of her comatose granddaughter. But our guy just smirks, fully aware that she still desperately needs his skills. Inside the chairman's office, the scarred man makes a dangerous deal, swearing to catch the heiress's killer. He knows he has no way out. Suddenly, his subordinate Hari bursts in frantically. Ignoring his anger, she holds up her phone, claiming she just got a call from the heiress's closest friend. The girl on the phone sounds terrified, but her words drop like a bomb. I know exactly who killed her. Meanwhile, our girl is already making her move. Standing on the rooftop, she pinpoints the bully's exact hideout just by analyzing a single photo posted online. Her eyes glow red as she prepares to teleport. However, not knowing the room's layout, she holds back to avoid jumping blindly into a trap. Just as she thinks of a plan, suspicious cars pulling up downstairs catch her eye. Zooming in, she is shocked to see the scarred man and his crew arriving. Realizing these dangerous guys are after the same target, she knows time is up. Adjusting her glasses, she decides it's time to force her way in. Scarface and his crew, including the red-eyed Hari, march out of the elevator. They've tracked down Han Yura and ordered their men to secure everyone inside. The sharp-sensed Hari suddenly glances back. Meanwhile, our girl Minna is hiding in the shadows, panting as she secretly tails the dangerous group. Inside the room, Han Yura is trembling with fear. Suddenly, the doorbell rings, and a group of strangers appears on the security monitor. Outside, Hari flashes a sweet, innocent smile, trying to coax Han Yura into opening the door. But behind her back, she's gripping a deadly axe. As Hari peeks through the door crack, the unexpected happens. Masked Minna suddenly appears like a ghost. The sudden eye contact completely startles Hari. Minna had already teleported inside. With a flash of orange light, she firmly grabs the screaming Han Yura from behind. Sensing trouble, Hari kicks the door wide open, but the room is totally empty. The person who was just there has vanished into thin air. Cut to the rooftop, Minna has teleported there with Han Yura. Thrown into shattered glass, Han Yura falls bleeding. The prey has finally landed in the hands of the true Punisher. Backed into a corner, Yura collapses in tears, desperately swearing her innocence. But our girl isn't buying it, and the cold smirk under her hood is absolutely chilling. Thinking about Chanhee makes our girl's eyes even colder. Completely broken, Yura desperately begs to be taken to Jihan as her last hope. Meanwhile, the syndicate's pursuers finally bust in, only to find their target has vanished. Staring at the empty room, the furious leader simply can't believe his eyes. Realizing the mysterious superhuman is behind this, he immediately orders a massive lockdown, demanding his squad search every nearby rooftop to find Yura first. Hiding in his safe house, Jihan peeks through the blinds at the chaos outside. Watching the clueless pursuers, he's coldly calculating how to use Yura for his escape. Just then, the doorbell shatters the silence. Annoyed, Jihan checks the peephole, only to see Yura shivering outside, crying and begging him to open up. Furious, Jihan rips the door open to curse her out, but instantly freezes. Our girl is standing right there with a polite smile, her glowing red eyes practically declaring his execution. Like a ghost in the dark, our girl teleports right behind the terrified Kong Jihan. As he desperately scrambles for the door, she firmly clamps a hand on his shoulder. Jihan stumbles backward in pure panic, collapsing beside a battered Han Yura. Standing over the pathetic duo, our girl watches them with cold, merciless eyes. Recognizing her, Yura completely breaks down, crying and begging for mercy. But our girl isn't buying their act, coldly cutting off their pathetic excuses without a shred of sympathy. Suddenly, Jihan's terrified expression shifts into a wicked smirk. Pointing at the black cars outside, he gloats that he's already lured the powerful Ilhe group here to do his dirty work. Jihan arrogantly threatens that the conglomerate will destroy her if they find out her secret. To his shock, our girl doesn't even flinch, stepping closer and daring him to go tell them. Provoked by her merciless taunts, Jihan completely snaps. In a frantic rage, he pulls out a stun weapon, but shockingly aims it right at his own ally, Yura. With a blinding flash and a piercing scream, Yura is brutally shocked and collapses motionless. In this desperate situation, the villains are already tearing each other apart. Facing the bully, Manhwa in her executioner disguise bursts into a mocking laughter. Hearing this demonic sound, Gahan is instantly paralyzed by fear. She slowly draws her baton, coldly asking if he knows what happened to Chanhee. When he plays dumb, she ruthlessly smashes him in the head. Meanwhile, Soo-hyun and his partner catch the commotion from a nearby rooftop. Pinpointing the location, he immediately orders his men to surround the building. Back inside, Gahan writhes in agony on the floor. Twirling the baton, Manhwa angrily declares that Chanhee is still in a coma, all because of him. Hearing this, a desperate Gahan screams and pulls his hair in a breakdown. Showing zero mercy, she pins him down, keeping the pressure suffocatingly high. Realizing Yahello group's forces are swarming outside, she remains surprisingly calm. Glaring at her captives, she coldly states they get to live a little longer since Chanhee survived. On the other side, Soo-hyun leads a massive squad of bodyguards right through the police barricade. They storm the building, fully intending to leave no one behind. However, despite the airtight perimeter, she uses teleportation to vanish into thin air with Yura. Left with nothing, Soo-hyun can only grit his teeth in frustration. Seeing Han Yura lifeless, the pursuit team is stunned. Just as they lock onto the suspect, he vanishes into thin air right before their eyes, leaving only a glowing ring behind. Staring at the empty rooftop, Hari realizes this bizarre escape matches the wealthy heiress's disappearance. Could this thug really be the superhuman they've been hunting? Furious that the killer escaped so effortlessly, Scarface instantly locks down the area. He orders a full sweep, but the radio reports bring nothing but dead ends. Facing a teleporting target, Scarface has no choice but to call off the hunt. Watching the culprit slip through his fingers drives him completely insane with frustration. Meanwhile, our girl is finally closing the net. This flawless frame-up was her masterpiece. Forcibly teleported, the bully is now in a terrifying freefall down a dark shaft. Slamming into the bottom of the abandoned mine, Ji-han looks up in pure terror. In the dim phone light, he finally recognizes his grim reaper, it's Manhwa. The ruthless bully is now cowering and begging for his life. With ice-cold eyes, Manhwa demands he apologize to his victim, letting him know his personal hell has just begun. Desperate to survive, the once arrogant Gahan completely abandons his pride. He begs on his knees, like a lost dog, and obediently hands over his phone password. But he never imagined our girl had no intention of letting him live. Seeing her turn completely cold after getting the password, Gahan realizes in horror that he's been played. Faced with a meticulously prepared abandoned mine trap, the cornered Gahan yells hysterically, even trying to trade intel on her enemies for a final sliver of hope. However, Mina remains completely unmoved. Standing above the crack, she looks down coldly at her prey in the abyss, leaving a chilling farewell before turning away. Leaving Gahan trapped alone in the dark depths of the mine, letting out agonizing screams of absolute terror in the endless darkness. After dealing with the scumbag, an exhausted Mina visits the hospital. Seeing Chanhee in a coma from protecting her, she drops all pretenses, tearfully confessing her inner struggles. But there's no turning back on this dark path of revenge. She silently vows to uproot all the evil before vanishing with her teleportation just as the nurse enters. Meanwhile, news of the bullying ring's brutal deaths and disappearances reaches the school, sending the entire classroom into a frenzy. The real storm is just surfacing. Rumors are still brewing inside the school, but outside the gates, our girl Mina's thoughts are interrupted by a sudden commotion. A silver-haired guy with a selfie stick is making a huge scene. His exaggerated antics draw a crowd, and Mina just wants to keep her head down and slip away. Turns out the guy is a cloud-chasing streamer vowing to expose the legendary superhuman girl. Mina's heart sinks as she wonders how he could possibly track her down. Just as the streamer's camera is about to shove into her face, a large hand suddenly snatches the phone. It's the Scarface guy, and he seizes the device without a second thought. Long time no see, Mina. Hearing that familiar cold greeting, our girl is stressed out. Running into the worst possible person right now, she knows she needs a quick way out. Furious about his phone, the streamer charges at the Scarface guy. But our tough guy easily counters with a brutal move, leaving the annoying streamer screaming on the ground. The streamer threatens to call the cops, but the Scarface guy casually reveals the phone's gallery is filled with creep shots of schoolgirls. The crowd instantly turns on the pervert. While this mess is solved, the real mind game is just beginning. While our girl quietly watches a chaotic chase unfold on the streets, the mysterious scarred man suddenly approaches her from behind, asking for a chat. Cut to a dessert shop, where our girl happily devours a massive sundae. She acts like an innocent student, thanking the so-called cop for bailing her out. Though she eats like a carefree kid, her mind races to figure out their identities. To regain control, she playfully asks if they are dating. This question makes the red-eyed partner burst into laughter, while the scarred man face bombs. But he quickly bites back, mocking her clumsy acting skills. Seeing his suspicion, our girl doubles down and bursts into tears. She cries about watching her friend get beaten, claiming the trauma left her completely amnesiac. Between her flawless tears and logical questions, her victim act is perfectly executed. With such an airtight disguise, the real psychological warfare has just begun. Facing the scar-faced man's interrogation, our girl puts on a flawless act, shedding crocodile tears. Her helpless appearance even catches his partner off guard. They order a fancy dessert to lower her guard. The scar-faced man watches her closely, trying to fish for crucial clues about the missing bullies. To apply more pressure, the man directly flashes his police badge. Faced with this sudden move, our girl forces herself to stay calm and play along. Just when things get tense, her mother rushes to the scene. Since they can't interrogate a minor without a guardian, the man has to back off. Relieved, our girl plays the obedient kid and leaves. The man waves goodbye with a fake smile, but both know this deadly game has just begun. As she walks away, his eyes turn cold. He recalls the bloody knife left at the brawl scene. Once they run a DNA test, the truth will surface. Meanwhile, the internet is blowing up. The leaked footage of her street teleportation is spreading like wildfire, and the real threat is just beginning. Scrolling through her phone in bed, our girl spots videos from a YouTuber trying to expose the teleportation esper. She starts to regret revealing her powers so recklessly just to save her friend. Her eyes flash a dangerous red as she realizes her past impulsiveness and blinding anger not only made things worse, but also landed her innocent friend in the ICU. Just as she swears to act more carefully from now on, her mom suddenly bursts into the room without knocking. It turns out her late father's junior, Uncle Cho, has dropped by for a visit. Uncle Cho warmly hands out juice, his eyes full of guilt. As a cop, he feels terrible for failing to protect his old senior's daughter when she was in danger. Her mom quickly comforts him, but this only fuels our girl's hidden rage. Hearing her uncle casually mention the killer's absurdly light prison sentence, she viciously stabs her food with a fork. Seeing the tension, her mom urges everyone to move on and live well. Minna politely agrees, but the brief, terrifying flash of her red eyes leaves her uncle sweating cold. Thinking he's just seeing things, the uncle nervously changes the topic to Detective Lee Soo-hyun. Hearing that dangerous name, our girl immediately plays it cool while closely listening to every detail. As the investigation deepens, Detective Cho keeps replaying the recent suspicious events in his head. The gang boss died mysteriously, and that so-called Detective Lee Soo-hyun is full of holes. Recalling everything that's happened recently, Detective Cho can't help but sigh. After so many years as a cop, how could his judgment be so clouded at a time like this? He suddenly remembers those glowing red eyes, and all the clues connect. It's none other than his old friend's daughter, Minna. The thought of her being pushed to the brink by those scumbags makes his blood boil. Back at the police station, a furious Detective Cho runs into the fake Soo-hyun and Hari. Seeing a scumbag like him strutting around with a police badge to investigate makes him sick to his stomach. For the sake of the bigger picture, Detective Cho reluctantly leads them to the evidence room, pulling out the bloody knife that serves as key evidence. But the fake detective shows no restraint, flashing an incredibly arrogant smirk instead. Our veteran cop isn't one to hold back, instantly grabbing the bastard by the collar. The tension is about to explode. Captain Cho furiously grabs the fake detective by the collar, demanding to know his true motive for approaching Minna and warning him to back off. Just as tensions peak, a panicked officer bursts in with horrifying news: a woman's body has just fallen from the sky, crashing right in front of the station. While the precinct erupts in chaos over this blatant body dumping, a mysterious hooded figure sits casually on a police cruiser, admiring their own handiwork. Elsewhere, the scarred man removes his shirt, revealing bizarre cross-shaped wounds. His partner Hari checks on him, both realizing these unnatural injuries must be from a superpower. Back at the station, the police chief is absolutely furious. During the recent chaos, crucial evidence was stolen right out from under their noses, completely humiliating the force. Fortunately, the tech team makes a breakthrough. They match the audio left at the scene with the school bully Kong Ji-han. It seems our girl's brilliant frame-up plan is working perfectly. Meanwhile, the cleaner team struggles with the clues. Despite doubts about his motive, the overwhelming forged evidence leads the police to arrest Gahan and his gang without hesitation. It turns out this is all the mysterious hacker's doing. By splicing together massive amounts of Gahan's voice recordings, he created a flawless fake confession to frame the bully. Proud of punishing the scum, the boy believes he's finally speaking for the victims. But a sudden, heavy news notification instantly freezes his smile. The news reports a fatal gas leak at Yugo Chemical Group, yet President Kim evades responsibility again. The heartbreaking cries of a victim's daughter deeply pierce the boy's conscience. Is the law just a shield for the powerful? As ordinary people plead for justice, Yahello Group's president Lee Ji-hyun enjoys a lavish banquet, celebrating the company's 50th anniversary. The stark contrast between the poor's sorrow and the rich's revelry is deeply ironic. Amidst the celebration, an uninvited guest approaches Cha Woo-hyuk, whose eyes flash an eerie red. Facing her ruthless rival, Lee immediately senses the danger. Cha claims he's here to congratulate her, but his glowing eyes hint at a massive conspiracy. The real storm has just begun. Inside the grand banquet hall, a tense meeting between the president and CEO Cha is interrupted as Agent Lee marches in, claiming he has an urgent report. Annoyed by the intrusion, Cha dismisses him with a fake smile. But Lee isn't backing down. The two lock eyes in a fierce standoff, making the atmosphere extremely heavy. To break the ice, the president steps in. However, when she drops the bomb that Cha is actually Louis' fiancée, everyone present is left completely speechless. Meanwhile, Yugo Chemical's president Kim has just dodged a legal bullet. Facing angry protesters, he puts on a fake smile, promising support before quickly escaping into his luxury car. Safe inside his car, Kim drops the act, arrogantly complaining about the masses. But his smugness fades instantly when our mysterious hooded vigilante suddenly appears in the back seat. When Kim opens his eyes again, he finds himself trapped at a rusty abandoned factory. Recalling the terrifying figure from his car, the once arrogant CEO is engulfed in absolute fear. Waking up in a rusty, abandoned factory, President Kim Ji-hyun of Yugo Chemicals tries to use his elite status to intimidate the masked figure standing before him. But our vigilante isn't buying it. She pulls out her phone, ruthlessly listing the bloody record of employee deaths under his watch. This isn't a factory, it's a slaughterhouse. The old fox tries to justify himself with the pathetic compensation he paid out. It isn't until our girl exposes the luxury apartment he secretly bought that panic truly sets in. Our protagonist isn't here for money. She wants retribution. As she opens the valve, a deadly stream of hydrogen sulfide hisses into the room. The toxic trial has officially begun. Hearing that the room will be flooded with poison gas in 30 minutes, Kim screams in sheer terror. Our vigilante coldly watches, forcing him to feel the exact despair of his doomed workers. Dropping a notebook filled with the victims' names, our girl vanishes into the shadows. The once arrogant president is left coughing in the suffocating toxic fog, desperately awaiting the reaper. Meanwhile, in the luxurious office of the Yahello Group, the cunning chairwoman Lee finds Lee Soo-hyun's report about a superpowered individual completely laughable. To shatter his boss's skepticism, Soo-hyun pulls up the security footage. The unbelievable explosive scene on the screen proves that their ultimate nightmare has just begun. Inside the Yahello Group office, the team reviews the bizarre investigation results. Thanks to the evidence our girl carefully planted, all fingers point to the missing bully, Kang Ji-hyun, as the supernatural killer. Despite the flawless evidence, sharp-witted Lee Soo-hyun senses it's a deliberate provocation. However, the haughty executive just smirks, ordering him to bite the bait to drag the real culprit out of hiding. The group's ruthless efficiency kicks in. They instantly target Ji-hyun's family and freeze all his hidden assets. A total crackdown on his network begins, determined to force him out. Just then, Soo-hyun receives an unexpected call from Minna's mother. Completely unaware of the dark truth, she warmly invites him to dinner. Minna, having just returned, overhears the arrangement. Meanwhile, to extract Ji-hyun's whereabouts, the Yahello Group is violently purging his network. Anyone connected to him is being ruthlessly tortured in their underground interrogation rooms. Hanging up the phone, Soo-hyun's gaze turns razor-sharp. He didn't agree to the dinner just to be polite. His real target for this psychological probe has always been the seemingly innocent high schooler called Minna. The scene shifts to a high-end barbecue restaurant. Minna cheerfully thanks the detective with a bright smile. On the surface, it's a cozy dinner, but a deadly psychological game has quietly begun. In the restaurant, Detective Cho warmly treats Minna and her friends to some barbecue. But behind this cozy gathering, a dark execution is already in motion. The scene cuts to an abandoned factory. The corrupt CEO, Kim Ji-hyun, is tied to a chair, desperately struggling to break free as toxic gas slowly fills the room. Back at the warm dinner table, Detective Cho drunkenly confesses his guilt as a father. He shares deep sympathy for Minna, who tragically lost her own police officer dad. Meanwhile in the factory, Kim finally breaks free. Gasping for air, he discovers a thick notebook filled with his victims' names, the only survival clue Minna left for him. However, showing absolutely zero remorse, the arrogant villain bursts into maniacal laughter. He tosses the notebook aside, throwing away his only chance to survive without a second thought. Right at this moment, Minna quietly watches the factory's hidden camera on her phone. As the detective keeps talking beside her, she silently oversees the ruthless execution playing out to the very end. Facing Detective Cho's sudden questioning, our girl doesn't panic at all. When asked about the bully Lua's whereabouts, she plays innocent, pretending she knows absolutely nothing. Trusting his late colleague's daughter, Cho casually leaks a classified detail: Lua was found dumped in the sea. Our girl immediately puts on a flawless act of total shock. Cho solemnly explains that the police are investigating the motive, mentioning the thugs who previously kidnapped her. Hearing Ji-han's name instantly pulls our girl's thoughts back to that day. In her memories, Lua always wore that hypocritical smile while trampling on everyone's dignity. Back then, Lua humiliated them with money and forced them to stay after school for her twisted entertainment. Snapping back to reality, a cold glint flashes in her eyes. She confronts Cho point blank. Why did everyone play blind when Chan-hee was beaten half to death, but panic when the rich girl went missing? Meanwhile, Kong Ji-han, trapped in the abandoned mine, is on the verge of breaking down. Clinging to his ledger, he struggles in the dark, terrified that the demon who put him in this hell might return at any second. Faced with her sharp accusations, Cho lowers his head in shame, wishing he had noticed sooner to stop the tragedy. Unmoved, our girl continues to press him, trying to fish out exactly how much the police know. Despite his strong police principles, Noah's father is now in deadly peril. Just as he's suffocating in a locked gas chamber, a massive explosion blasts the door open, sending him flying into the debris. The scarred detective gasps for air in the rubble, while Hari stands above him unharmed. Eerily smiling, she mockingly brings up his missing daughter to taunt him. Meanwhile, the untouchable chemical tycoon lies dead in the muddy rain. Securing the scene, detectives look up at the tower, completely baffled by how the victim teleported here from the courthouse. The impossible circumstances immediately rule out an accident. Refusing to miss any clues, the police call in drones and ladder trucks for a massive sweep of the industrial building. However, mysterious cleaners act even faster. Under the cover of rain, they use special sprays to erase all traces and even locate the victim's hidden SOS phone in the wall. Just as the cleaners think they've erased everything, our disguised girl Minna makes her move. She decisively tosses the crucial SOS phone into the fire. With her glowing red eyes, she ensures her perfect execution leaves no trace behind. Soon, the shocking news of the tycoon's fatal fall dominates the media. Watching the broadcast, the arrogant elites who thought they could outsmart the law finally feel true terror. Arguments over compensation and the recent deaths are spreading through the city. As the victim scandals surface, the public is left shocked, questioning the true nature of justice. Our girl casually munches on snacks, while the news broadcasts the CEO's mysterious death. That distorted voice message on screen is actually her own declaration of judgment against the world. Authorities are scrambling to find the original audio file. They've begun to suspect a superhuman is behind the chaos, focusing their investigation on the link to Kong Ji-han. Despite a witness placing our girl elsewhere during the murder, her eyes flash a sinister red, suggesting that she is far more involved than anyone dares to suspect. A breakthrough comes from an encrypted ledger, linking the Buckying Group's CEO to the case. The hidden web of corporate grudges behind these deaths is finally starting to unravel. It turns out Cha Woo-hyuk tried to secure his future through a strategic marriage, but was rejected as a fraud. That deep humiliation provided him with a perfect motive for revenge. A vital lead appears in Kong Ji-han's schedule a meeting with the entertainment group. The authorities decide to use this information as bait to lure the true culprit into a trap. Back home, the mother casually mentions the string of falling deaths, making the atmosphere tense. Our girl listens in silence, knowing her secret war is far from over. At home, Mom is terrified by the recent string of falling deaths, and is even scared to let our girl go to school. Seeing her mother so shaken, she feels a heavy mix of guilt and duty. Despite the danger outside, our girl knows she can't hide forever. Removing her glasses with a look of resolve, she gently reassures her mother that she isn't afraid anymore. But Mom's next words send a chill down her spine. She shared her fears with the detective over dinner. Realizing she's under police scrutiny, our girl has to keep her guard up even at home. Over the weekend, our girl visits the hospital to check on Chan-hee. Seeing her best friend hooked up to a ventilator because of her choices, she is consumed by a crushing sense of guilt. Chanhee's grandmother, unaware of the truth, is just grateful for the company. Watching the elderly woman struggle with the hospital bills, our girl silently vows to take full responsibility. In the middle of this somber moment, an uninvited guest arrives, Lee Jahyun, the Yahello group chairwoman. Seeing the woman behind so much tragedy, our girl's shock is written all over her face. The calculating chairwoman plays it humble, approaching Chanhee's grandmother as just a fellow student's relative. She even offers a supportive hand, but what scheme is hiding behind the kind mask? As Jahyun leads the grandmother away for a private talk, a dangerous red glow flickers in our girl's eyes. She watches intently, wondering if her secret identity has finally been compromised. Meanwhile, the sharp-eyed detective watches the suspicious encounter from the shadows of the hallway. The real game of wits might have only just begun. Facing the relentless probing, Manhwa tries to stay calm, but her racing heart betrays her. The scarred detective, Lee Soo-hyun, is clearly not someone she can easily fool. Meanwhile, the Yahello group president finally pieces the puzzle together. From the knife attacker and gang bosses to her own granddaughter Lua, all the victims had one thing in common: they tried to harm Yoon Chanhee. Following this lead, Lee Soo-hyun and his partner have secretly set a trap. Now, they just need the president's green light to capture the vigilante executioner hiding in the shadows. Back in the hospital corridor, Manhwa tries to gather intel through small talk, questioning why Soo-hyun is working with the conglomerate. The veteran detective casually dodges the question. Just when Manhwa thinks she's in the clear, Soo-hyun drops a bombshell. Your prayers have been answered. Lee Lua is alive and being transferred to this hospital. The news leaves Manhwa completely shell-shocked. Later, Uncle Cho reveals that Lua is in a deep coma and cannot testify. Manhwa makes a sarcastic remark to hide her growing panic, knowing she's already become the prime suspect. Standing outside the ICU looking at the comatose Chanhee, Soo-hyun continues his psychological warfare. You must be relieved the case is solved. But do you really think Chanhee wants that demon Lua back? That strikes a nerve. Manhwa coldly retorts that Lua's reign of terror wasn't just bullying, it was one-sided destruction. Only when she disappeared did Chanhee finally show a glimmer of hope to keep living. In the dim hallway, the glasses guy finishes a brief update on their friend's condition before turning to leave, letting Scarface ponder his next move. Just then, his partner Hari rushes over. Staring at the enigmatic man before her, she loses control of her emotions and fiercely hugs him from behind. The fanatic follower gets so worked up that her eyes glow red. Sweating profusely, she vows to follow her senior to the very depths of hell. Faced with this obsessive confession, Scarface remains completely unfazed. A gentle pat on the head instantly calms Hari down, and the two quickly proceed with their next hunting plan. Soon after, breaking news floods every screen. The notorious heiress of the Yahello group miraculously survived her fall into the sea. This bombshell instantly sends shockwaves through the public. This is exactly the trap Scarface meticulously laid out. He knows that once the seed of doubt is planted, the hidden vigilante will definitely show up. The real counterattack has just begun. The sudden death of the chemical group's chairman completely blew up the media. News channels are working overtime, exposing this series of vigilante killings targeting the city's worst scumbags. Experts are debating whether this dark vigilante is a hero or just a cold-blooded killer. After all, those bullies and scumbags had completely slipped through the cracks of the law. Faced with the anchor's moral questioning about achieving peace through murder, our girl just scoffs while eating a burger on a rooftop. If you haven't done anything wrong, why are you scared? Suddenly, a shocking news alert pops up. The rich heiress she dropped into the middle of the ocean was allegedly rescued. Manhwa instantly sees right through this pathetic lie. She knows it's a trap set by that mysterious scarred man, waiting for her to check on the target. But our protagonist isn't scared at all. She's ready to crush everything. But plans change when a massive fire suddenly erupts in a nearby commercial building. Seeing the trapped people, Manhwa decides to prioritize the rescue, putting her showdown with the villain on hold. Meanwhile, the villain set up a deadly trap in a VIP hospital room, using a dummy as bait and rigging the place with highly sensitive infrared lasers. Once triggered, hidden stun grenades will detonate instantly. Despite his subordinates' doubts, the Scarface man is absolutely confident that their target will walk right into it. He assumes our girl is a show-off who can't resist such a childish provocation. However, at the burning high-rise, thick smoke billows as the situation spirals out of control. The firefighters are completely helpless against the inferno. Instead of walking into the boring trap, our girl puts on a hazmat suit and dives directly into the flames to save civilians. While the villains are still busy overanalyzing, she has already brought the unconscious victims out of the deadly zone. The rescue team is left totally speechless by their sudden appearance. Facing the desperately trapped crowd, she stops hiding her true power. With flashes of bright orange light, she uses her teleportation to warp the trapped victims down to safety. Seeing more and more people miraculously survive, the reporter enthusiastically broadcasts live. Thanks to her presence, what was supposed to be a devastating tragedy has turned into an unbelievable miracle. The news is going crazy over the miraculous rescue. Having saved so many people, our girl in the hazmat suit is panting heavily, as consecutive teleports have pushed her to the absolute limit. Looking up at the remaining victims on the collapsing platform, she shakes her head in exhaustion. She's done enough for today, leaving the rest to the professional rescue helicopters. Just as everyone holds their breath watching the broadcast, our girl playfully flashes a V sign to the camera before vanishing into a spectacular beam of light right in front of their eyes. This flashy exit naturally catches the attention of her enemies. Watching the broadcast, the villains immediately confirm her identity, and poor Chanhee in the ICU becomes their perfect leverage. With adrenaline still pumping, our normally cold-hearted vigilante realizes something entirely unexpected. Using her powers to save lives from the brink of death is actually incredibly fun. By the next day, the miracle in the fire has completely blown up the global internet. Viral footage is everywhere, and news outlets are desperately trying to uncover the mysterious hero's identity. Hiding under her covers, our girl completely panics at the 10 million view count. Gulping nervously, she wonders if she's caused such a scene that even international intelligence agencies will come after her. On screen, tearful survivors are praising her as their absolute superhero. And used to such heartfelt gratitude, our dark punisher gets so overwhelmingly embarrassed that she buries her face deep into her pillow. Our girl is back home, scrolling through her phone in a state of high anxiety. Saving her friend was the right call, but the video evidence is a ticking time bomb. She knows a synthesized voice won't fool anyone with a sharp nose for long. The thought of the scarred man Lee Soo-hyun sends her heart racing. Between his lethal combat skills and terrifying intuition, our girl fears her secret identity might already be laid bare in front of him, leaving her feeling completely exposed. Looking at Soo-hyun's contact info, our girl can't help but wonder if her father were still alive. Would he be like this man? Realizing she can't just hide forever, she decides to turn the tables and start investigating him herself. Meanwhile, the scarred detective is playing Hunter, meticulously analyzing the footage. He's counting the seconds between her teleports, searching for a pattern. To him, no superpower is absolute, everything has a limit and a cooldown. By observing the rescue details, he's already deducing her weight limits and physical strain. He realizes that if they can exploit those few seconds of vulnerability, even the most elusive teleporter will have nowhere to run. To draw her out, he orders his partner Hari to leak the location of Lee Lua's VIP hospital room. It's a blatant trap, betting that our girl's extreme sense of justice won't let her pass up a chance to finish what she started. When Hari asks about the endgame, the man's gaze turns icy. His guilt over his own daughter has curdled into a dark obsession. If our girl is indeed responsible, he has no intention of showing mercy, only retribution. In a different corner of the city, trouble is brewing at Spot Entertainment. Shards of a broken teapot litter the floor as a predatory executive corners a terrified employee. It seems a new shadow of sin is stretching out, waiting for judgment. A corrupt politician is assaulting a female employee when the door bursts open. President Cha's eyes flash red as he steps in, feigning outrage to stop the act. Intimidated by the sudden pressure, the politician falls to the floor sweating. Clueless about the danger, he foolishly tries to use his status to threaten the intruder. President Cha isn't having any of it. His pupils glow an eerie red as he ruthlessly attacks, leaving the man screaming on the floor with a broken arm. Calmly adjusting his collar, Cha smirks and orders his men to clean up the trash. Then, he turns his attention to the terrified female employee. Switching to a gentle savior persona, he easily charms the clueless girl. Leaving the room, Cha sneers internally at how easily these pathetic pawns are manipulated. To him, only someone as ruthless as Lua deserves to be his prey. Eager to trap everyone in his web, he changes his schedule to personally visit her at the hospital. Meanwhile, our girl is staring at her screen with a deep frown. She's trying to dig up dirt on Lee Soo-hyun, only to find the guy is practically a ghost online. Munching on chocolate, the guy in glasses decides it's time to take matters into his own hands. To clear his name and uncover the truth about Lua, he prepares to personally interrogate Mr. Lee. He wraps a glowing, spark-flying wire tightly around his gloved hands. With a sinister red glint in his eyes and a cruel smirk, he's more than ready to extract the truth by any means necessary.